Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to What the Why with Barbara Ann. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured it out. Maybe you're feeling stuck and you want to get unstuck. Maybe you would like to make a change in your life or your career or even your company, and you're not really sure where to start. Or maybe you feel stagnant and you're just looking for something different. One of the things that all of our leaders that we speak with on this show have in common with you is at some point in their lives they felt similarly and they decided to make a change and pivot in their lives or careers. And our guest today is no exception. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Miriam Zylberglait, also known as Dr. Z. When I first met Miriam, she introduced herself to me as a mother, wife, physician, educator, well-being advocate, and author, which I thought was a mouthful. But to be more specific, she's so much more than just that brief little phrase. Dr. Z is a triple board certified in internal medicine, geriatrics, and obesity medicine with extensive clinical experience. She completed her medical education and geriatric fellowship in Peru and provided patient care for over 10 years at the Naval Geriatric Center. Dr. Z then moved to the United States in 2011, where she completed her training in internal medicine and geriatrics at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. Dr. Z has a deep interest in the topics of well-being, burnout prevention, mental health, and leadership, something that has certainly been at the forefront of the minds of many of us during the pandemic. She completed a fellowship in leadership education and development with the AAMC, which stands for Association of American Medical Colleges, as well as a certification as a mental health ally and a physician wellness advocate. For her dedication, Dr. Z was selected as a member of the Wellness and Professional Fulfillment National Committee of the American College of Physicians. In addition, she received the Mentor of the Year Award from the AAMC in 2022. Excitedly, Dr. Z is currently putting the finishing touches on her first book about well-being and burnout prevention with the support of the Creators Institute of Georgetown University. Her title of her book, The 3 G's Cycle of Life, The Secret of Achieving Joy, Meaning, and Well-Being, is now available for pre-sale at a website that's accessible from hers. And you'll hear more about how you can get in contact with her and purchase the book on LinkedIn and through the internet. I already purchased my launch pass, so now we're going to talk a little bit about what I've purchased and how she's found her way along this journey. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming all the way from her home base in Florida, Dr. Miriam Zylberglait Gorski, aka Dr. Z, aka Miriam, aka Phenomenal. So welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. You have done so many amazing things throughout your career, and your recent pivot is no exception. But whether it's as author or educator or well-being advocate or physician, I'm curious as to what young little Miriam wanted to do when she was growing up.
I wanted to save the world. I didn't know exactly how. And I found a book in the house of my grandmother. I have no idea why it was there. A green book, very old, about psychology in young criminals. I don't know why I pay attention to that. And I was probably 11 or 12, and I was reading that book and thinking that I will, make people happy and healthy, and I will save their lives. I never thought that I would become a physician. I was planning to be a psychologist. To be sincere, I faint with blood. I used to faint with blood, and I am still terrified of needles. But my best friend was going to medical school, and she convinced me that I can be a psychiatrist instead of a psychologist, and I will use a white coat, and we will be together for the rest of our lives studying. So that's how I ended in medical school.
Wow. So you went in planning on being a psychiatrist, but you went into geriatrics and other specialties. How did you figure out that that was the better route for you to go?
Nothing that makes me proud right now, but I used to cry with my patients too much that
my goodness. So
was abnormal.
wait a minute. So I think there's a lot to be proud of. The fact that you're a doctor that was too empathetic with your patients. So you were crying with them.
But that's not helpful. So you need to learn how to be empathetic and helpful at the same time. If you crying with your patients, there's a problem. So I believe that years later, now I'm somewhat going back to my roots of psychiatry, psychology interest. Actually, that's what I am writing about. But with more maturity and more experience and still the same empathy, but a little more of balance in how I use the empathy on my favor, not against myself.
Yeah, because I mean, yes, you're right. There is an appropriate level of empathy, but I think you have some empathy to spare in terms of some others. There's a lot of wonderful, amazing medical professionals out there, but some of them could shed a tear or two. So you've decided to write a book. How did you get from, physician, full of empathy, working in geriatrics and the other certifications that you have, to the point that you decide to yourself, you know what, I have something to say that will add value to the world of health and well-being?
I remember clearly the first two articles that I wrote. The first one was about how my kids were seeing COVID, and I call it COVID on the eyes of my kids, and how, while we were terrified, my kids were trying to find ways to make this something a little more interest and an opportunity to learn, how we were using some of the phrases of famous books, to try to convince ourselves that everything will be okay. So I wanted to share that optic of, that from naive kids, where they were still optimistic and they were having dreams and they were thinking that we can help others and we can, use this in our favor. My kid, he was 6 or 7 at that time, and I remember that he came one day telling me, "Mommy, I have the solution." And I'm like, "What's your solution?" "Well, what happens if we don't kill COVID, but we transform it in a kind virus? So everybody gets sick, and instead of dying, they become kind. The world will be much better." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's
a kindness virus.
Let's get infected with kindness." And so that was my first article. And I share also a little about the fear that my kids had about me dying, right? Knowing that I am a physician and that I have to go, and how afraid they were.
Yeah.
The second article has a second tone, and actually was more than a need of showing optimism. This was a claim of, this is not fair. Mm-hmm. I read an article about 2 residents that died by suicide in a program, just with a few months of difference, and they were immigrants. And I got so upset, so frustrated. I was not able to hold it. And I wrote that article to share my concern. Actually, my husband and my sister, they had to edit it. Wow. So it was polite enough to be shared. Those were my beginnings, trying to express happiness and trying to express concerns and trying to advocate.
I love the idea of a virus that spreads, makes everybody kind. What an amazing thing for such a young person to say. But I'm glad we kind of both brought it up, because the pandemic really did take a toll on the community at large, but all of the medical professionals that were called on to assist. And you're in Florida, which had it's a little bit different than the way it was up here in New Jersey. But how did your kids handle their fear in terms of, oh my gosh, mommy's in this environment where it's scary to them that something could happen to you?
So I was lucky enough to, if that's a way to say it, to not be actually inside of the hospital. My practice was in a clinic next to the hospital. So I saw COVID patients, but I didn't saw the catastrophe that was happening inside of the hospital. So I was in some ways protected from that, but I was exposed physically to get sick anyway. I don't know if they were able to even go over this now. My kids still, they talk about what happened if mommy or daddy died. They still have that in their brains, it's a fear that's still with them, is what happened is. And my husband and I, we try to explain to them that, well, this could happen to anybody in any time, but that they are protected and that we love them. But it was very difficult, not only because of the fear that they had, but also because of the isolation. I feel like, yes, physicians, nurses, and anybody else in the healthcare work suffer, but the complete community suffered through this. And while we are trying to go back to normal business, if you want to call it like that, I don't think that we grow yet after this, that we heal after this. I feel like there's a lot of trauma still around us, and we need to start healing, not only covering this, like a Band-Aid, and we keep going. We cannot keep going forever if we don't heal, and we need to heal.
Which is actually, believe it or not, it's time for our break. So when we come back, we're going to talk about how your book is part of the process of healing. So stay tuned after this break for more with Dr. Miriam Z. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's special guest, Dr. Miriam Z, otherwise known as Dr. Miriam Zylberglait. And she is putting the finishing touches and just launched the pre-sale of her new book, which she's also here to talk about. And I'm really excited to see this because as we were talking before the break, there's such a need for healing and the ability for people to move on post-pandemic and just in life, and how everything has affected their mental health and well-being. So her book is The 3G Cycle of Life, The Secret of Achieving Joy, Meaning, and Well-Being. So first and foremost, tell us about the 3Gs. What are the 3Gs?
So the 3Gs is a different way to see life. I personally, I don't like this vision of a line, the life that is linear, where you cannot really go back on time, that force you to do everything and feel this stress that if I fail, what happened, right? So I was watching my kids playing these internet games, and all of them, they have these cycles, right? These levels, and you have to do something very bad and several times to die, right? You always have the opportunity to go back in the game, and as soon as you cross one of the levels, you are able to go to the next one. So For me, in some way, life is like that. It's a cycle after a cycle that we are closing, and that is helping us to develop the skills that we will use for the next level. So I was asking myself how my life cycle could look, right? And for me, everything starts with my first G, that is having a goal. And some goals are just forced by society, right? You are supposed to go to school, you are supposed to finish college, you are supposed to get married or have kids or whatever your culture or the place where you live enforce you to do, right? To have a job and maybe buy a car or a house. But there are some goals that are really your dreams, the things that you want, right? The ones that, it's like kind of your purpose. And I believe that those are the most important ones, at least for me. So the question is, how do you go through this cycle and where do you get this energy to keep going, right? And that's my second G, that is from grit. This need to, keep going, this motivation, this energy inside of you that force you to go and achieve your dreams. And then, in theory, you can close the cycle with your goal. But the truth is that in life, not always we get the goal that we were trying to achieve.
Yep.
Sometimes because we just don't have access to it. Sometimes because we change our minds. Or sometimes because we just fail and we need to try again.
Which, and we've talked about it. Fail to me is, first attempt in learning, right? So there's really, I never thought I'd be doing this. So, you never know what you might learn as part of those different steps that go a little bit differently than the way you expected.
Yeah, and the truth is that doesn't matter if you get your goal or not, and that's the perspective that I want to change. Is you don't fail.
Right.
You just change your opinion, you change your perspective, you change your goals, right? Or you need to try again. But there is something that always happens through that cycle, no matter what.
Yep.
Is that you will learn something. So you will grow.
Absolutely.
And if you grow, you are able to keep going in that cycle, or maybe change the cycle to other, depending on your new priorities. But there is no disappointment, there is no frustration, there is not a stress, something that we need to remove from our shoulders, because it's like a very heavy backpack to walk with every day.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, somewhere in everything that we go through, even if we don't know it for a long time, one day we may wake up and realize there was a gift in it. And you're right, life is so not linear. I have a sign over my desk that says, this is how we want change to be. It's a straight line across. And then this is how change actually is. And it's like, driving all the way around, and then go back, and then go forward. So, change is absolutely not a linear path. And I love the idea of three circles, as you call it, the cycles, the G cycles. And so in terms of what someone who's interested in learning more about the book, how do you walk someone through that process in the book?
So the book is, in some way, and I want to disclose this to be transparent, the book started as a way for me to heal.
Okay.
I needed to kind of go through my own process of introspection and to analyze my life and to start taking decisions. And what I did during the process of writing the book is ask for help. Something that very difficult for a type A personality who is a physician, by the way. So recognize my own vulnerabilities, recognize my gaps, recognize that I was suffering, that I was not living the life that I was supposed to, and that I was not able to help myself in all the ways that I needed. So what I started to do is contact people that I didn't know, that didn't know me through LinkedIn. And they were experts on different aspects of life and growth and development, well-being. And I just sent them a message. It's like, I really need help. I want to write a book. I need to learn. It's my process of healing. And I received so many yeses that I am absolutely impressed. And many of them are now not only part of the book, but they became friends, and many became even mentors. And has been a beautiful experience where while I have been writing this book, I have been learning, I have been changing, and I'm trying to kind of pass that opportunity to others, to share with others what I did right, what I did wrong, what I'm not able yet to change. This is not book about perfection. We are not perfect, and I don't want to tell a story that is fiction, right? This is the real life of a real person with good and with bad. And many of the stories of those that I interview also are just stories of real people that had to face adversity, and in different ways were able to, not only bounce back and be resilient, but to grow after that.
Which is one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, because what you're doing with your book for yourself, as well as the people that you talk to in the book, are exactly what our audience is looking to do. It's exactly the type of leaders that we want to have on the show, because so many people, you keep hearing in the news about the Great Resignation, and people keep trying to change it and call it the Great Reorganization or reprioritization. But the reality is whether you work in a grocery store or you are an international physician, there can be some very similar feelings in terms of whether or not you're really living the purpose that you feel like you were put on earth to do.
Yes, and I feel like that word, purpose, right? Purpose, meaning, is something that we were missing probably during, the last years. We were some kind of hamsters just running in our own wheel, losing our real goals. I feel like we got to a point that we didn't know what we were doing. At least that happened to me and to many of those that surround me and that I have the opportunity to talk with. We just didn't know what we were doing. We were running. COVID gave us the opportunity to pause, to reconsider, to be afraid, to recognize that we are humans, that something could happen to us. And then this big resignation, I am sure that there is a component of I am not happy with the leaders and I'm not happy with the treatment that I receive in the place where I work. I have no doubts about that. I'm sure about that. But
I
there's
hear that a
also
lot
a
of time
component
from
of,
people.
is this the type of life that I want? I'm doing what, fits my values, fits my heart, fits my reality now. How many times we are 40, 50, and we are still running, trying to trap that dream that we had when we were 20. We are not 20 anymore.
No, I'm not.
We need to reassess who we are.
You're right. Actually, shout out to my friends. We just had our class of 87, 86, and 85 reunion over the weekend, so definitely not in our 20s, as we all learned the hard way. But believe it or not, we're out of time. But the exciting thing is, as I mentioned, and you've seen the cover of her book, the book that you've been seeing is actually the mock cover, because as part of the pre-sale, if you decide to buy a pass, the pass isn't just to get a copy of the book. It is also to be able to participate in helping to design the cover of the book and actually even getting an acknowledgement at the end of the book, which I would have bought it anyway, but it's a really sweet thing to do. So if
it's
people...
more than that. It's also be part of, have access to the chapters, to review them, to be in the behind the scene of how you publish a book, and be part of a community. And I will say that the other thing that you will get with the book, which for me is so important and is really part of my mission, is that we have been organizing, and the people that I interview are donating part of their time for this to organizing some sessions, workshops, and interactive activities where we will be able to talk with those that are helping us and collaborating with us, because we want to share our mission, and we want to create awareness about the importance of well-being, the importance of mental health, and the importance of burnout prevention.
Awesome. Now, if somebody wants to pre-order your book, I know you're available on LinkedIn. What's the best way to go to your website or LinkedIn or wherever you'd like them to go?
So LinkedIn, and you can text me, and I will be happy to interact with any of you. It will be actually a pleasure. And if not, you can go to my website, www.3gcycle.live, L-I-V-E.
Okay. So, and also, you can also reach her through the Purpose-Filled Company email and website, which is posted at the very end. So thank you so much. You're going to get to hear from her again, because we've already talked about having her come back when the book is actually launched, so we can talk about the book itself. So stay tuned for that, because the book is going to be released this winter. So thank you again. Regarding next week, let's just say August has been a very interesting month, and I'm understanding why a lot of network television shows do reruns. Between the surgeries, illnesses, and vacations and so forth, I've got one of 3 different guests coming over the next 3 weeks, and at the time of this taping, I don't know who's doing which week. So you're going to be as surprised as I am when this episode premieres next week. But whoever we're fortunate enough to have as our guest, you don't want to miss what they or any of our upcoming guests will be sharing about how they, like Dr. Z, figured out their whys. As a reminder, What the Why airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. and Mondays at 3:30 p.m. and is also available on demand through RVN Television and Roku. So whether you're looking to make changes in your life or career, no matter how big or small, please join us again for more inspirational and informational conversations with people who wanted to make changes in their lives, overcame whatever fears and obstacles may have been in their path to find their purpose and fulfill it.